messing, and now someone else is getting all your best. These boots are made for walking, and that's just what they'll do. One of these days, these boots are gonna walk all over you. Yeah. You keep lying when you ought to be truthin', and you keep losing when you ought to not bet. You keep saying when you ought to be a-changin'. Now what's right is right, but you ain't been right yet. These boots are made for walking, and that's just what they'll do. One of these days, these boots are gonna walk all over you. You keep playing where you shouldn't be playing, and you keep thinking that you'll never get burned. Ha! I just found me a brand new box of matches, yeah. And what he knows you ain't had time to learn. These boots are made for walking, and that's just what they'll do. One of these days, these boots are gonna walk all over you. Are you ready, Boots? Start walking.
Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. My boots are made for walking. My name is Patty Stern, and I am joined today by Stacy Quinn. Stacy and I are both survivor ambassadors for the American Heart Association, and we'll be moderating today's discussion. Thank you for joining us for the very first Go Red, Stay Healthy program. Today, we're going to talk about why walking is one of the most powerful exercises for better heart health and to increase our stamina. We chose to begin the series with walking to complement the American Heart Association annual Heart Walks, which are taking place this month in hundreds of cities throughout the month. We're going to share more about this later on at the end of the program. And Stacy and I, of course, want to thank American Heart Association New Jersey for their support to bring you the Go Red, Stay Healthy education program. For me, heart disease is genetic on my mother's side. Her father died at 42 from a heart attack, and my mother died from a massive stroke at 77. I had a heart attack 3 years ago at the age of 54. It was during cardiac rehab that I fell in love again with walking. And while I've used the treadmill that's in my home gym for years, I really never walked outside much. Then the pandemic lockdown began, and I ventured outside for two reasons: to get fresh air and just get out of the house. I started paying attention to my step count, my pace. I was conquering hills, and I love it. So I walk 5 to 6 days a week now. And actually, for me, let's meet for lunch or coffee, which used to be pretty much how I did business in the past, has been replaced with, well, let's meet and go for a walk and catch up. It works beautifully. Everybody loves it. We're going to learn a little more about Stacy in a moment, but for now, I want to introduce you to our two fitness professionals who have joined us today. They are with Lifetime Fitness in Florham Park, New Jersey, and this happens to be my home base club. So Peter and Austin, thank you for being with us. Now, Peter Dell'Orto, you have been a fitness professional since 2009, and I understand at one point in your life, you couldn't even do a push-up. and you persevered to become a competitive MMA fighter. And through that experience, you saw how your strength and stamina and confidence transformed. And so now that's what you do with your clients, you help them transform. What else can you tell us about your background and your approach to fitness?
Well, first off, thanks for having me. So yeah, like I started originally in 2009 as a trainer, and I like to say that what I do is I get people from can't back to can, or from have never to able to. One of the things that I find with a lot of people, especially when they're just starting to train, is they want to come out of the gate like gung-ho, like go for everything. My approach is a little more like conservative. It's a little more minimum effective dose. Like, what's enough that we can do today that's going to make you better? It doesn't have to be more than yesterday. It just has to be a little bit more.
That's excellent. That's excellent. And Austin, this is Austin Neva. And Austin, you lost 55, let me say that again, 55 pounds back in 2015 when you were a mere 19 years old. And from that experience, you discovered your career path that you're in now, that you wanted to become a health and fitness professional. And I know you have a lot of certifications under your belt at a very young age, which is tremendous. Your title of corrective exercise specialist is interesting. I've never actually heard that before, so it piqued my curiosity. Will you tell us more about that and how you challenge your client?
Sure. Well, I'd like to thank you by having me. It's a pleasure to be with you all here, and to be speaking with you all. Yeah, so as you just said, that I did lose 55 pounds at a young age, and that's because I had noticed that at a young age, my vibration was lowering and my health was in jeopardy. And after already being genetically predisposed to a lot of metabolic diseases like diabetes and high blood pressure, and obesity runs in my family, I didn't want to give myself a better chance at getting any of those things. So I decided to take agency in my capability and get my life back into order. And it eventually turned into a career path for me at a mere 25 years of age. So what I like to do in my practice here is to help my clients find that agency within themselves as well, and to regain control of their health, because most of the time it is their own destiny as well. And the way that I like to do this is with, traditional strength training, but also with corrective exercise, which essentially bridges the gap between a more clinical setting such as physical therapy, all the way up into a more, traditional strength training modality like, lifting weights. So how can we get our clients to move optimally and feel good and empowered doing so?
Beautiful. Well, gentlemen, I want to really thank you both for being with us today. You've got a lot of great information to share, and I appreciate your willingness to share that knowledge. Now, you didn't think that I forgot about Stacy, now did you? Stacy, my very, very dear friend. It's your turn. Tell us about your stroke, recovery, and your why when it comes to going for walks and keeping your heart healthy.
Absolutely. Well, hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Stacy Quinn. I had a stroke 6 years ago. It was a bit of a surprise to me because I was in the best shape of my life when this happened to me. And that's probably why I was misdiagnosed twice and went 10 days after having the initial symptoms before getting help. But the reason I had such a positive outcome after that experience was because I was physically fit. I exercised, I worked out regularly, and that was really important, and why I'm here today to share my story. I think what a lot of people don't know is that 17 million people worldwide die from cardiovascular disease every year. And in the US, someone has a stroke every 40 minutes. Those are really eye-opening statistics. And also, when you think about women, nearly half of all women have some form of cardiovascular disease. And also, I did not know this until it happened to me, 1 in 5 women will have a stroke in her lifetime. But we can help prevent these by eating a healthy diet and exercising, and walking is something that we can all do. It's one of the easiest ways to stay fit and be active. And research has shown that walking can have a significant impact on reducing your risk for stroke, heart attack, diabetes, and also it does wonders for your mental health. So today we're going to share some of those great tips with you, but I'm sure you might have some questions. So please use the chat box, chat us your questions, and we'll get to them throughout the program. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Patty to ask the first question.
Thank you, Stacy. So my first question is actually for Austin. You think it's important to meet people where they are, and you kind of said that earlier, as a fitness approach, and you don't ever want them to feel intimidated to begin a walking program. So let's get started with you just expanding on this philosophy a little more.
Yeah, thanks. I think that's a really great question. And you're totally right. My philosophy is that I like to meet people where they are, because I believe that fitness can be accessible to anyone, someone who's never exercised a day in their life to the most seasoned veteran in fitness. How can we measure and where that person is ready, willing, and able to do today? And how can we get them to start a fitness regimen so that way they don't necessarily feel intimidated by the prospect of getting back into shape? Let's face it, fitness is difficult, right? Like, we're often put in uncomfortable positions, and that can be very daunting to some, even to me. I trust me, I didn't look forward to leg day yesterday. So like, fitness can be very daunting to some. And how can we start to find a starting point, something that is replicable over time, sustainable, and make that person feel empowered in doing so? And if I can be the person to help bridge that gap, whether that be with a structured, regimented walking program, even to something like a running program and beyond, I want to help you find that. And I think it's important that we find that access point so that people find and see success in their fitness careers.
Thank you.
So Peter, I have a question for you. A lot of times we hear that before you start any exercise program that you should consult with your physician or doctor. So can you let us know, what's the best path on getting clearance from your doctor with starting a walking program? And then a little bit, what's the difference between pain and injury? Can you explain that to us?
Sure. So yeah, first off, like, ideally you'll get clearance from your doctor before you start an exercise program. But at the same time, we're talking about a basic, like, fundamental human movement of walking. And if you're going to get up and walk to your car, go to your doctor's office, walk into your doctor's office and say, is it okay for me to walk? The answer is probably going to be yes, right? If you've got any kind of conditions where, like, that's going to be difficult, yeah, like, you're going to need some further support and some further discussion on it. But you do have to take that first step and take agency, as like Austin mentioned, and say, like, okay, I'm going to start on this gentle and easy path to, like, recovering my cardiovascular health. Of course, when it comes to that, like, you do have to be aware of pre-existing conditions, if you have any, or any that you're any to be concerned about. You also have to start thinking about your feet. You have to start thinking about your ankles. You have to think about your knees. You have to think about your hips. And so what I would recommend for anyone that's going to do that is you're going to want a good pair of shoes. Don't find some old clunkers that are badly worn out in the closet. You don't have to go out and buy yourself top of the line running shoes, but get something good, doesn't have a worn out heel, has traction, feels comfortable when you wear it, right? A good pair of socks, right? Like, you want to make sure that you've got the right gear to start out with. And then you asked about, like, pain and injury. That's a really important consideration. So I like to say that there's a difference between pain and discomfort. So let's say you go for a walk, you come back, everything kind of feels kind of achy. Well, how long does that achiness last? Does it last like a couple of minutes? Does it last an hour? Does it last a day and then it goes away and it doesn't come back the next time you do it? That's probably discomfort. That's okay. Anytime you do exercise, you're probably going to put yourself in a little bit of discomfort. Pain, on the other hand, pain is generally something that we want to avoid. We've all heard that expression, no pain, no gain. No pain, no pain. Pain is like injury entering the body. So if you go for your walk, you come back, everything hurts, doesn't feel better the next day, feels worse the next time you do it. That's injury. That's something that you want to avoid. That's something where you're going to need to talk to either a trainer or a doctor or a physical therapist about. Right? You want to just get that distinction of, do I feel better when I move more? Discomfort. Do I feel worse when I move more? That's pain and injury, and that's something that you really want to minimize and avoid.
Great. Thanks,
Should we push through discomfort?
I would say push through at least a little bit of it. Yeah. I mean, you don't have to do it every time.
Slow it down a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to do it every time. And like, you know, if you're pushing yourself at a pace and then you feel like this is a little bit too much today, you can absolutely like roll it back. But know that it's over time, like, yeah, you're occasionally going to push yourself. You're occasionally going to have to do something that doesn't feel so great to do.
Okay.
But just know, like, it's that difference between ouch and I'm going to feel this tomorrow.
Got it. Okay. So Stacy and I have 4, I'm going to call them rapid fire questions that, because they're just general information, but they're important when you're thinking about walking and exercising. So I'm going to shoot this first one to Peter. Is there a best time of day to walk?
Yeah, I would say if you can, walk in the morning. It really doesn't matter what time of day you walk, but if you walk in the morning, it's much more likely that you're going to be able to do it and get it out of the way before life intervenes and takes your whole day away from you and you're not able to fit it in. The earlier you can get something in, the more likely you are to get it in. That said, like, if you're more comfortable going for a walk after work, or you want to work with your friends like in the evening or anything like that, like, yeah, whatever time you can get it,
But the best
it is
time,
good.
but the
The best time is the morning. The
morning.
best time is before your day gets, derails itself and it all
Right.
gets taken away from you. Yes.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
over to you, Austin. This is kind of a 3-parter. Should we walk before? Should we eat before or after we walk?
I would say both. It's important to fuel your workout, something that's going to be easily digestible, and then will give you nice, long-lasting and sustainable energy through your course of exercise, and then perhaps something a little more hearty afterward, with a good, that has good balance of carbohydrates, a little bit of protein to recoup all of the energy that you have since lost during your walk.
So give me 2 of what you think are the best types of food to eat after or before a walk.
Ooh, well, if we're talking about personal preference here, I'm a big fan of fruit beforehand. It's really nice, easily absorbed sugar in the body, such as like bananas. The simpler, the better. So I personally am a big fan of bananas. And then afterward, if you're going in the morning, then perhaps that'd be the time for a nice hearty breakfast, such as like your oatmeal, your cereal, or some kind of toast, or whatever it is that you like to have after a hard bout of exercise.
Great. All right, Peter, back to you. So how many times a week should we walk, and how long should we walk each time?
So generally, like 4 to 5 times a week is going to be a good setup for most people. In terms of how many times or how long of each of those times, generally, if you shoot for like between like 15 and 20 minutes, so you have 4 to 5 times a week, 15 to 20 minutes each time, that's going to give you a good, solid overall like program for walking. That said, like Austin said earlier, which is you have to meet people where they are, right? It can be difficult to get started. 4 times a week, 20 minutes each time. That's an hour and 20 minutes a week. That's a big jump from 0. It's a little intimidating to start with. It doesn't need to be there. That might be optimal, but you have to start with what you're ready and able to do.
Agreed.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter how small that ready and able is. Like, start where you're going to start and go from there. I know
Yeah.
Austin's got some thoughts on this because we've talked about this a lot before about starting from scratch, starting from the shoes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
exactly. Mustard seed size habits.
So I've got my next question, which kind of feeds into what Peter was talking about. This is for
Okay.
Austin. So what matters more when you're trying to gauge success with walking? Is it time or is it distance? Because I know when I was going through cardiac rehab, we had an allotment of 45 minutes of cardio, nothing else but just cardio. So that kind of became my number. It's still my number. And then I've got other times when I'll walk 20 minutes or do 2 sets of 20 minutes. And I can feel myself leveling up. So for people who are walking or just starting a walking program, how are they going to gauge their success? Time or distance?
I think that's a really good question. I really believe that comes down to personal preference. I know personally speaking, I'm much more of a distance kind of person. Am I going out for 1 mile or 2 miles today? Though, if that doesn't really suit you, then please feel free to use a time budget, if you will. And that becomes really pertinent as when we start to consider like our busy schedules, right? If I only have 30 minutes to walk, then perhaps it might feel good for you to set 30 minutes as your timer to go out and walk. Though focusing back on the point that we made earlier, I really think that the most important thing is to just get started and find meaning once you've gotten started. Are you more of a distance person or are you more of a time person? I think that we're bound by all of these, what I call analysis paralysis, kind of, hey, should I run or should I walk 2 miles? Should I walk 20 minutes? And then kind of getting caught in the middle and not doing either, right? So the most important thing is just getting started and then being able to find what suits you and then gauging success from there. Has my distance gone up? Am I able to walk for more time today than I was yesterday? And then
Okay.
taking everything as a complete picture, being able to measure how much success you've actually had.
Perfect. Okay. So, Stacy, do you want to see if there's any questions?
There is a question in the chat, and maybe Austin, you can continue because it's along the same line. So Jesse is asking us, is there any benefit to walking briskly 5 minutes several times a day as opposed to 15 to 20 minutes at a time when you just really can't fit that into your schedule?
Yeah. So Peter once gave me a piece of advice and said that exercise is cumulative. Going along with the mantra that I live by, let's meet you where you are. Something is better than nothing, right? And if we can start to take joy and take meaning out of walking briskly 5 minutes, interspersed throughout the day, and then perhaps allow it to become the priority. Hey, how can I lengthen this time because I really enjoy this? Then that's, I think, the thing that we should be focusing on here. So the long answer short, yes, please walk briskly for 5 minutes at different parts of the day, because you will reap some benefit than if you hadn't decided to walk at all. And hopefully, some magic happens where you decide, hey, I have a little bit more time today. Let's see if I can walk for 6 minutes this time and 7 minutes this time. And then that one day where you have that magic 20 minutes to walk for a prolonged period of time, you'll be more ready, willing, and able to walk for that 20 minutes because you did it. You built habits in that direction throughout the week.
Yeah. And most weeks I set out not to walk, do my own cardio 4 times a week. I set out to do 90 minutes a week. And so sometimes I can get 10 minutes in here, 15 minutes in there. Sometimes I can get 40. Sometimes I can only get 5. And I just add it all up as I go and try to get to my 90 for the week.
That takes a lot of discipline. So that's great.
It's actually easier than making it a specific block each time. Because it's oh, I don't have time for that today, so I'll just get in what I can, and I'll get more tomorrow, or I don't have to get as much today because I got in a bunch yesterday. It's just like putting some walking in the bank.
So, were there any other questions, Stace?
That's it for now.
Okay, so moving along. Now I want to talk about body types. because I think this is important. So me and Stacy are actually really great examples. She is like supermodel, slim and strong. I'm not skinny, but I'm very strong. And so based on a simple comparison like that, how do different body types and build affect the walking programs that we implement? Like Stacy and I probably wouldn't do the exact same thing. Does one size fit all?
I would say no. One size really doesn't fit all. But it's mostly going to be something that you're going to observe in how you feel when you walk. You're going to find that some people have a longer stride, some people have a shorter stride. So you might find like somebody is a particularly good walking companion for you because their pace and your pace kind of push each other, but don't push each other too much. You'll find other people like, are taking 3 steps to your 2, and you're kind of like driving them crazy while they're trying to keep up.
Yeah.
Right. But
well, that's more about walking together.
Yeah.
I'm going to be talking to Austin about that. So I kind of wanted to just know if,
like, in terms of like just physical shape.
As far as if I just talked to Stacy and she said, yeah, I walk for 50 minutes every single day.
Right.
And I said, oh, well, if Stacy can do that, I can too. I'm going to be 55. But our builds are so different. That's kind of what I'm wondering about.
Right. Well, that's one of those things where, like, Austin said, like, we have to meet people where they are. You have to meet yourself where you are, right? Like, if just because somebody else can walk a certain distance or a certain speed or anything that's not really reflective of where you are. You have to find your own place and your own pace. And it's really going to vary by body type. I'm a very tall, very lanky, long striding person, right? Like, covering distance is pretty easy for me. I tend to set time goals because distance goals are not such a big deal for me because I can go a fairly good distance, right? So, but somebody else might have to set different goals, and it's going to feel differently on your body. You just have to know, you have to like I say, meet yourself where you are and understand that like somebody else's metric is not going to match yours.
Yeah. Okay. And so then Austin, let's take it a step further and talk about now we are, the people that we walk with. And I have a friend who walks, not Stacy, someone else, who walks super fast. And my legs, I found that my legs and my feet are always sore after I walk with her. And so for a little while, I was like, well, I'm not going to walk with her anymore because it hurts. And it also, because I was hurting, it made me wonder if I was as healthy as she was, because I couldn't keep up, even though I walk a lot. So I finally told her that it was hard for me to keep up with her. And she, was very obliging. And she says, well, I'll just slow down my pace a little bit. And, but I got, I felt bad asking her to do that. And there are even some times now where I'll say, Karen, just go on ahead. I don't want to slow you down. But it makes me wonder about the best way to communicate, because I think it's great to walk with someone. It's so much more fun. But what's the best way for us to communicate with our walking partners about, pace and stamina so that we are advocating for ourselves and we don't hurt ourselves in the process of keeping our friendship?
Yeah, honestly, I think that's a really thoughtful and mindful question. And what I would say is that you would want to treat that relationship like you would in any other social environment and interaction. Effectively communicating the needs that you have. Specifically, they pertain to walking. So, perhaps trusting that when you express these needs, hey, I can't keep up with you, or I would like to go a little faster. I'm just unable to right now. Having that trust and sensibility in that relationship with said friend that you're going with, that they'll respect the boundary that you've put up and then the current ability that you're in, and having no shame to do so, because at the end of the day, you two are friends. And had she not been, or this person not been open to, the variability between your abilities, she probably would have said, no, not today. And which would have been totally fine too, right? So long as you remain compassionate and and say that I would like you to slow down, or I cannot keep up with you. Not you walk too fast, Karen. Navigating that communication of your need like anything else, I think, is the most effective way to do that.
Good, thank you.
So I have a question for you, Peter. So now we're into our walking, we're doing great, but we want to add some strength training. And I know when we originally spoke prior to this, you had said walking 4 times a week and doing strength training 3 times a week is really great for your health. So can you give us some tips on that? And also, what are some of the pitfalls of overdoing it? I am completely guilty of it. Lately, I've been going to the gym in the morning and at night, spending 2.5 hours. I'm kind of tired, not feeling great. So give us some tips on when you should dial it back.
Okay. So first off, in terms of like how many times a week, we generally recommend you want to do some kind of like strength training or resistance training 3 times a week. You add that on top of the walking, that's 4 times a week. The duration of those strength training sessions, like 30 to 60 minutes. Might be a little shorter, might be a little longer, depending on what you're doing and your pace. But you can do a quick math and be like, well, that adds up to 7. That said, I would recommend having one day where you take completely off from any exercise. Like, you don't need to do something every day.
Okay.
Professional athletes don't do something every single day. Most days, but not all. But it's totally fine then to do your training like you said. You're going in the morning, going back in the afternoon. What I would say though is that the overdoing it issue comes in, right? Like, when is too much? That's also going to depend on your level. It's going to depend on your ability, and it's going to depend on the feedback that you get from your own workouts when you do them. My recommendation is leave yourself some time in between your strength training workouts to recover. So if you're doing it 3 times a week, let's say you're doing your strength training on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Great. Or Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You're doing your walking on your other days. One of the days you do a walk and strength training. That's great. You don't need to push yourself every single day as hard as possible. Again, exercise is cumulative. You're just trying to give yourself enough to make yourself a little bit better. You're not trying to do the maximum possible. That's a pitfall that we've all fallen into. I've done it. I'm sure Austin's done it. Patty mentioned doing it. Like, we all get to that point where we're like, yeah, but I can go just a little bit more. I can do a little more. I can do a little more, a little more. Your body will make you dial yourself back. It's better to dial it back right from the start a little bit and just say, what can I do today that will make me a little bit better for the future?
It's great advice. Thank you, Peter. Advice I need to take.
And I
Same.
actually have I have another. I want to ask you, Peter, about this. I'm guilty of overdoing it, and it's like, how long can you push your body before it just it's kind of telling you, hey, chill out for a couple of days.
Right.
And do we need to listen to that? I mean, like, seriously, do we need to, if our body is telling us, you're tired. I think kind of like what Stacey was saying, sometimes she's tired and she still will go do it. But then sometimes we really just need how many days to reset our bodies.
Right. Well, it depends on how far you overdo it, for how long. It's that discomfort versus pain thing, right? Similarly,
no,
like,
it's discomfort and pain. Okay.
Oh, no, but I mean, it's a connected concept, which is like, when are you pushing so hard that something is getting worse rather than getting better? So are you pushing so hard and doing so much that the next time you go to do it, you're more tired and you feel less well than you did the previous time you went and start it,
Yeah.
then you're probably overdoing it and you're going to need to dial back. I would start with a minimum dial back, right? Like if you feel like you're pushing it over a little bit too much with 3 times a week and like 4 walks, drop one of them off of the week.
For one week.
For 1
not-
week,
not
see
forever.
how that feels. If it feels okay, you can try adding it back in. You don't want to
Okay.
take, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Additionally, you don't want to take 1 step forward and 2 back, right?
Okay. Okay, so I want to talk about injuries a little more.
Yeah.
Austin,
Okay.
last year, my left knee, my right heel, and I don't think that was an accident, left knee, right heel, and I wasn't playing Twister. They started hurting when I started walking outside, and I didn't want to stop walking. So I put a brace on the knee and walked a little slower outside. I self-diagnosed is what I did. But I also could feel that the weight on my left, that it wasn't walking balance. And it took months. I did push through. I walked slower. I didn't walk as far. But I pushed through and eventually I got all of the pain to subside, thankfully. So, you've talked to Stacy and I many times about the difference between being stiff and creaky, great word, versus pain, and what we need to pay attention to. And one of you said something earlier about the sneakers and the socks, and pulling back just a little bit. But we talked about just the creakiness and pain. And did I do the right things when I had that happen to me, or was I stupid?
Well, you're certainly not stupid, Patty. So let's clear that up. But I think this really refers back to the question that you had just asked Peter. How do we know when to pull back, right? Pain is our body's way of telling us that is a call that something is wrong, such as like when you put your hand on a stove, not to do that again. That's off limits. So when you feel that pain starting to come on, or you're on the precipice of an injury, of an injury like that, that's your body's way of telling you, hey, we're overdoing it, and that's when we need to start dialing it back a little. Luckily, we have different modalities like and therapeutics, such as like a brace, that will help us mitigate that pain and deal with it a little bit better. Though we should also respect and recognize that that's not going to cure it, right? Which is why we dial back in the first place, which is the reason why, people like myself and Peter and other medical professionals also exist as well, to be able to look at that instance and tell you, hey, I think that this is an injury, we need to lay off a little bit, or that this is in fact discomfort that you should keep going. In your case specifically, I'm super happy that you're able to heal and feel better. Though if that happens in the future, where you do notice that there is physical pain, your body's way of telling you, Patty, you're overdoing it, or that something is wrong, that it would be best in future to go seek professional help, whether it be from a trainer like myself, if it falls within our scope of practice, or to go to a medical professional for some consultations so they can advise their breadth of scope.
And that happened to me during the pandemic. So I didn't have the luxury actually of going to see a doctor or a trainer because we were on lockdown. So that was another reason that I did what I did. So thank you.
All right, Peter, for you. Now, I know that Patty and I are huge fans of working out with professional trainers, although I want to say you don't always have to work out with a professional trainer. I know during COVID, I went to a local park and had a friend bring up some apps and was training me to motivate me. So you can always find someone you trust to do that. But for anyone today that wants to seek the help of a professional trainer to really step up their fitness program, to be more heart healthy, what should they look for in a trainer, and what does that relationship look like?
Right. Yeah, in general, I would say, like, just for a start, ideally you'll find like a professional trainer to work with, or at least consult with initially. Like, if there's one thing I can go back in time and change about my training, is I would have gotten a trainer right away instead of years later after like many dead ends and injuries. But you do need to find like a good relationship with somebody in order to have a good training program out of it. So ideally what you want to have is somebody who is a certified trainer, has experience in the field, or has experience working with people who are where you are and where you want to end up being, like where you're starting from and where your goal is taking you. Now, that relationship is always going to have to be based on trust. So you're going to want to find somebody that you have a good relationship with, that comes with recommendations from people that you know, or from friends, from family members, has clients that have gotten to where you have gotten, want to go. And that relationship is really going to have to be like a very trust-based relationship, because you're putting your health in that person's hands, and they're going to have to understand like where you're coming from and where you're going to and how to get you there. It doesn't, like you said, it doesn't always have to be a professional. It could be a knowledgeable person, but make sure that the person that you're working with not only knows what to do, but how you should do it.
Yeah, and talk a little bit about the, going back to advocating, for ourselves. Like, when I start working with a trainer, it's my responsibility to outline any heart issues, diabetes, anything I have wrong with me, and then also any body injuries that I've had or weaknesses that I have in my body, to communicate that.
Yes.
That's, I think, very, very important, not only before a program is started, but during, to remind, because, when I was working with Cassandra, there were some moves that she wanted me to do, and I had to, stop, say, I'm not going to risk damaging my knee for that move. And so can you talk a little, just talk about the responsibility that we all have for ourselves, whether we're working with a trainer,
Right.
or again, if we're with friends. It's just, I want to just hammer that home, how important it is that we are responsible for our bodies.
Yeah, and we absolutely are. And the relationship is not, sometimes people see it as like, like trainer client. It's not, it's a co-equal relationship. You can only get results if both of you are putting in that same level of work with one another. You absolutely have to discuss your injury history, how you feel before, during, and after exercise. And you have to advocate for yourself, and you have to trust that the person that you're working with is understanding that and is able to respond to that and use that information positively for you. It's always a reciprocal and giving like relationship in both directions. And one of the things that I know this is definitely true from Austin, it's true for me, which is no amount of information about how the workout feels is too much, right?
Sure.
No amount of information about how your body responded to it is too much. We never have quite enough. The more we know, the better we're able to tailor things to that person.
Right.
And the better you understand your own body, the better you're able to use the exercise that's coming in and use the program that's coming in to reach your goals.
Yeah, and I would even expand upon that to bring this full circle. The first question that we had asked is, should you get, a approval from your doctor before starting a walking program, whether it be with a trainer or a medical professional, just starting at a program on your own? Like, please be transparent with whomever you're sharing this information, because you are defaulting to them as the professional. So any information that they have to better advise you will be information, they have to better advise you. So always look at it as that way, and be sure to advocate for yourself in the same way that you told, Cassandra, that, hey, I don't want to risk my knee, is the same way I would expect anybody to tell their doctor, I've never done this before. What are some things I'd expect? Here's my full history, so that they can receive the most appropriate advice, and realize that if we start to withhold information or give false information, we're putting ourselves at a disadvantage down the line. And I hold this true to be, whether, like I said, whether it be with a trainer or a doctor, please be transparent with the profession that you are yielding to, because they are there in your best interest, and you would like to receive the best information as possible. And a lot of that has to do with how you take agency over yourself and how you advocate for yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Stacey,
absolutely.
did you have anything you wanted to add before we move on?
No, I mean, I think that I know through my work with a personal trainer it's been really beneficial to me, because I do have certain restrictions as a result of my stroke, and that person is really my partner to make sure that I don't hurt myself. So it's been an important part of my recovery.
Very good. So I want to kind of bring things home now so we can close this program. One is, I think it's important that everyone, when you're going to start your walking program, whether you're going to do it 3 times a week, 4, 5, 6, whatever it is, but schedule it on your calendar. Make a date with yourself and keep your date with yourself. And whatever, you can move it around during the day, but keep it on your calendar. And remember this mantra that if you get the gear on, it'll happen. And the 4 of us had talked about this during our first conversation, and we all started laughing because we knew that how true that is. If you don't put the gear on, then the likelihood of you chilling out on the couch to watch Bachelor in Paradise goes up tenfold, instead of lacing up those sneakers and getting out the door. So I think that that's very, very important. And walking will help you reduce your risk of heart disease and stroke. And here's the best part. You only need about 2.5 hours a week of moderate exercise, such as a brisk walk around the neighborhood or the park. That's it. Take care of your heart. And we have come a long way. And only 1 in 4 men and 1 in 5 women and children still actually are getting the recommended amount of physical activity. Obesity in both adults and children is at an all-time high, and kids today are being diagnosed with signs of heart disease, stroke, and diabetes earlier than ever before. That's a stat from the American Heart Association, and that's very concerning. And I think that's another program for another day, for sure. So, Stacey, are there any other questions in the box for us to address?
We just have one real quick from Peggy. Thank you. And this is not something that I know anything about, so I might mispronounce it, but she asked, some walkers and runners may suppronate, yet they discover this too late, and it's painful. It takes a while for people to get back to normal. So do you have a concise description of this that you can share with our guest, Peggy?
Yeah, I actually have information on this. And I know exactly what she's speaking to. Before I answer your question, Peggy, I did want to expand on a thought that Patty had, which I think that you'll find segues nicely. Get your gear on is super important. And that goes back to the central point of meeting yourself where you are. Mustard seed size habits. If you put your shoes on every single day, eventually you're going to feel motivated to get up and walking. So if that's what you're capable of doing, take no shame in it. Please put your shoes on every single day. And I promise one of these days it will turn into a walking habit and regimen. As from the way I understand it, is that some walkers, is what she says, start to supinate, which is they turn their feet to the outside so that they're more so walking towards the outside of their feet, as if like that undersides of their feet are facing each other, which can be very painful as we're supposed to land mostly on the base of our feet here. And that's where I think that talking to a professional, such as, you know, a physical therapist or even a corrective exercise specialist like myself, will really start to yield benefit for you, because then we can start to see where is that coming from, how can we start to address the appropriate muscles that are making that happen, and therefore start to implement best practices and behaviors such as simple exercise to alleviate that problem, so that you're walking sans discomfort and pain, but also in the way that you were designed to walk. A lot of that typically tends to happen through lifestyle, though it's not always certain. So that if it is out of my scope of practice, out of a corrective exercise specialist scope of practice, then yes, a physical therapist would be the next best person to see. But supinating, so that everybody is clear, is when your feet turn out and the insides of your feet are more facing one another.
Well, that's good to know, Austin. That was the first time I've heard that. So thank you for the question, Peggy. And another question that someone has, and maybe Peter, you can address this, is can someone lose as much weight from walking as they can from running?
Well, if you're running for the same amount of time that you're walking, you're going to use more calories in that run. That said, I generally tell people to not look at walking as a direct way of burning calories. Walking is a very heart healthy activity. It's a very body healthy activity. One of the things that we'll do is it's going to reduce the amount of stress that your body is under. A body that's under less stress is going to burn more body fat. We hold on to body fat as a stress response because that's a natural response. When something bad is coming and bad times are coming, hold on to what we've got because we might lose it, right? So if you walk, your stress level is going to come down. That's going to allow your body to function better. You'll sleep better. You'll feel better. Your mood will be better. Overall, that's going to increase your health. That may, in the long run, cause you to lose more body fat, even if you don't necessarily burn more calories in that actual activity. I don't think of running as like advanced walking. Running and walking are different activities. We use them for different purposes. Austin definitely runs. I'm not a big runner, but I'm a big cycler. But I treat my walking and my cycling different from one another, not interchangeable. So.
Thank you, Peter. Last question we'll take real quick before we wrap up and let everyone get back to work in their day is, how important is it to break a sweat when you're walking? What do you think about that, Austin?
That's a really good question. I think it's just more important to get out and move. Use energy, right? Burn calories if weight loss or fitness is your general goal. The intensity will come later when you have a little bit more time to spend a prolonged period of time walking, or you're at a physical point where you can up the intensity and do something, aside from walking or in addition to walking. Walking for a very long time as compared to running a short amount of time, will it make you break a sweat? Perhaps not, but you'll be burning more energy than that person who would only run, say, a mile. I think that's getting caught up in the details a little bit. The more important part is to really just get active, challenge yourself, and let that habit grow and build from there as you discover what fitness is for you.
Well, thank you,
Don't worry about
Austin.
breaking a sweat. Worry about feeling good.
Yeah.
I like it. Well, we're going to help people feel good. And if Lori will bring up the slide, we have a way to start get you walking in New Jersey. So this is our Heart Walk season. We have some Heart Walks coming up. These walks are really important because they raise money for life-saving research. If we didn't have it, Patty and I wouldn't be here today to host this important webinar with you. So you can join us in West Orange on October 17th. Then on October 24th, we're going to take it on to the Jersey Shore by the boardwalk in Asbury Park, New Jersey. And if you can't make that, you could join the one on October 31st in Monroe Township, New Jersey. So lace up your sneakers and help us raise money for a really, really great cause. We will send a follow-up email after this with the recording in case you want to share it with friends and family. And also, if you have any questions we didn't get to, please feel free to hit reply on that email and we will do our best to get back to you. And Patty, any last words from you?
Yes, Stacey, I want to thank you, Austin, Peter. Thank you all so much for being part of this program today. And I do want to let everybody know that when the follow-up email goes out after this program, we'll have all the contact information for Peter and Austin. And I understand that Lifetime is extending some guest passes. So that information will be in the follow-up email that you get. So if you want to go check out the club, meet these two guys where they are, you can do that. So thank you for being with us today.
And thank you, Patty, for all your hard work putting this together and the AJ.
Yeah, so Stacey, I guess we have to up our intensity on our next walk at the park.
You got it. So everyone join
Okay.
us for a great walk and enjoy your afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.